Hello everybody, I'm Novi and welcome back to the channel. On last week's Dynamite, Adam Copeland beat Christian Cage for the TNT Championship, ending his combined 277-day reign with the belt. That is a very long time for a championship reign, but why doesn't it feel that way? You could just say that Christian is that good, and I wouldn't argue with you. But there's a whole lot more to what made his TNT Championship run so special. We get into all of that today when we talk about how Christian Cage revived the TNT Championship. But first, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. We go live before Dynamite every single Wednesday, and we make videos just like these every single Saturday, just talking graps. At its inception, the TNT Championship wasn't supposed to be like all the other mid-card belts that people had become so accustomed to over the years. Instead of feeling like just another whatever title, it was supposed to have a real weight behind it. If you had the TNT title, you were a top guy in AEW, and that belt was proof of it. This was exemplified by the first 5 people they chose to hold the championship. Cody, Mr. Brody Lee, rest in peace, Cody again, Darby Allin, and then Miro. Those were all guys that people considered to have very bright futures in AEW at the time. They were world champion material. If not then definitely sometime in the future. After those 5 reigns though, things get spooky, especially looking back on how the 5th champion Miro lost his championship. No matter what you think of him now, Miro was an incredible TNT champion and really kept with the prestige that the title had garnered. He was a dominant champion who absolutely destroyed, or redeemed, all of his opponents. It ruled, and like most championship reigns, a lot of people were most excited to see who would finally be the David to conquer Goliath. Given he was this big monster, a lot of people were thinking that this random Sammy Guevara title challenge on Dynamite wasn't going to be the time. I mean, surely not, right? Well, it was, and Sammy Guevara became the 6th TNT champion on September 29th, 2021. This move wasn't universally loved in the slightest, and both sides had valid arguments for their position. People that defended it said that quick title runs and shock TV losses were what TV championships were for. People that were against it said that Miro had so much left to do as champion and shouldn't have lost it so soon. I was personally on the against it side because I loved Miro at the time, and I thought there were so many more matches they could have tapped into if they just held off a little bit. But they didn't, and the Sammy Guevara championship run that ensued actually ended up being quite good, at least in the ring, because that's what he was best at. Storyline wise though, it was an absolute tragedy. I don't know if I have a particular reason why it wasn't very good, but if I had to give one, it's that it introduced the worst act in AEW history, American Top Team, to the TNT title. But we're going to get more to them later. So first, let's talk about Cody's 3rd reign as champion. The reign started when he defeated Sammy Guevara at Holiday Bash 2021. This seemed like a questionable choice at the time, but it would only get more questionable after what we'd soon find out. Not 2 weeks after winning the belt, Cody Rhodes was pulled from a title defense against Sammy Guevara due to COVID issues and relinquished the belt. That was particularly strange because COVID wasn't going to put Cody out for months and months, so why did he have to relinquish it? Well, this is where what we'd soon find out comes into play. Cody Rhodes' contract with AEW was coming to an end in February 2022, meaning TK gave him the championship 2 months before his contract was up without him resigning. This one decision in particular is, in my assessment, the beginning of the downfall of the TNT title. Because of all this, the belt felt like it had no plan and no direction. This was the first of many incidents that hurt its long-established prestige to the wider AEW audience. Quickly after Cody was pulled from the match though, his brother Dustin Rhodes was booked in his place. He would challenge Sammy Guevara for the TNT Championship at Battle of the Belts 1, but it wasn't the actual TNT title, it was the interim TNT Championship. This was during AEW's obsession with the interim champion, and just like the Cody mishap, had done nothing but hurt the belt's prestige. When it comes to the Dustin-Sammy matchup, I was actually in the building for it, funnily enough, and thought that the match was pretty good. I've never gone back and rewatched it because I'm not doing that. I want to keep that memory sacred. But Sammy winning was the right result in my opinion. Sammy would then face Cody to unify his interim championship and Cody's lineal belt that he never lost. The match they ended up having was legendary in spite of all the messy booking surrounding it for a couple of reasons. One, the match was really good and gave us one of the best spots in AEW history when Sammy hit Cody off the top of a ladder with a mid-air cutter. Secondly, this was Cody Rhodes, a true AEW original, last match in AEW. That's a whole video in itself that so many before me have already made, So I'll just say this was a great moment for him to go out on and leave it at that. Unfortunately though, this triumphant match was the peak for the TNT Championship for a while, as we now enter the dark ages of the belt. For the next 6 months or so, the title would be hot potatoed between Sammy Guevara and Scorpio Sky, with that whole story placing a lot of emphasis on Dan Lambert's American Top Team, the act I called the worst in AEW history earlier in the video. This group of UFC fighters who didn't want to be there would be involved in some of the most awful, misogynistic, and tiring stories you've ever had the displeasure of sitting through. And since they were paired with Scorpio, they would be involved in all of the TNT Championship segments at this time. It was genuinely unwatchable TV, and if the hot potatoing of the belt didn't kill any prestige it had left, that did. After all that though, the next champion would be Wardlow, who was coming off of squashing MJF at Double or Nothing 2022. At the time, Wardlow was at his hottest and got some of the loudest reactions on the entire show, so it made sense. However, a string of nothing title defenses and a lot of MJF backstage drama that just kind of overshadowed his reign, he cooled down a lot, leading up to his eventual defeat to Samoa Joe. This is where the hot potatoing starts back up to an absolutely insane degree. Let me just give you a timeline of events real quick. Joe drops it to Darby after 47 days. Darby drops it again to Joe after 28, who then drops it to Wardlow after 32, who then drops it to Powerhouse Hobbs after three days, who then drops it to Wardlow again after 42. I know that was a lot of numbers and a lot of graphics to take in at one time, and it might have been very chaotic, but that's exactly what this belt was. It was chaos. If all that isn't enough though, let me throw out a stat to prove it. December 22nd, 2021 to June 17th, 2023 encompasses 12 different title reigns, including one interim, with only 2 of them being longer than 2 months. And one of those was Scorpio Sky, and he just beat it by, I think, about a week. I'm not going to spare anything. This title was finished. It was cooked beyond belief. It got so bad, people thought the best idea was to just get rid of it. It had been thrown around so much and involved in some of the worst storylines that it just became a piece of metal on AEW TV. I think by this point, the entire AEW fanbase had lost hope that the belt would ever be as good as it once was. The TNT title needed a savior. It needed a father figure to bring it back up, which sounds like the perfect spot for the instant classic Christian Cage to come in. Christian's reign really began before it officially began, when he started living vicariously through Luchasaurus, who was the actual TNT champion at the time and his own personal big man. Christian would carry the belt on his shoulder, say it was his mistakenly, the whole 9 yards, and it was really starting to get over huge. But it wasn't just him pretending to be TNT champion that did it. He also started bringing up his opponent's dead fathers. He had started doing this in an earlier feud with Jungle Boy, but started putting a new emphasis on it, and it became a central part of his heel persona that the fans always pot for, even though that is pretty morbid. He did it to Brian Pillman Jr., he did it to Wardlow, and he especially did it to Nick Wayne, who would eventually, funnily enough, become his son of all things. I'd venture to guess that AEW was picking his feuds based on who had fathers that had died sometime in the past, because it just happened so often. Eventually though, they decided to belt up Christian for real and had him beat Darby Allin and Luchasaurus by pinning specifically Luchasaurus. I thought that would be bigger than what it ended up being. I mean, it didn't really lead to much other than some weird looks from Luchasaurus, but I'm glad they at least tried with that. With the belt officially recognized as his on his shoulder, he just kept doing the exact same stuff he was doing before, except now it wasn't so complicated to book. Honestly, I think me saying it like that is an undersell, because Christian Cage was the best part of AEW at this time. He did this during a time where so many AEW fans, including their core audience, thought the product was really bad. But there was one bright spot every single week, and it was him. I honestly shudder at the thought of Christian not being on those shows and having nothing to sink my teeth into. No matter what he was doing, he made the TNT belt feel like the biggest thing in the world, even bigger than the World Championship, honestly. This is undoubtedly an incredible feat, especially given all that history I talked about before. In 3 or so months, a title that so many people thought should just be gone from the company was actually prestigious again. So prestigious, in fact, that it main evented an AEW pay-per-view, a $50 pay-per-view. It main evented. That's honestly one of Christian's biggest accomplishments in his entire career, because this championship was completely dead in the water, and it was now the centerpiece of a $50 show. And those $50 shows AEW puts on are the biggest thing in the world, and everyone knows they're usually very, very great. So it means something to main event them. Through sheer greatness and a willingness to be the dastardly, cowardly heel that people could play along with and boo all the time, Christian had revived the TNT title. And something I haven't mentioned so far is that Christian Cage was 50 years old doing all this. A 50-year-old man completely revitalized a championship in a major United States wrestling company. And now when we look to the future, it looks like the title will remain as important as he made it feel. Through one of his all-timer cowardly heel performances on AEW Dynamite a week ago, Christian set up Adam Copeland, the new TNT champion, up for a really great run. I'm not going to go into detail on why I think that's going to be great, but all I gotta say is Cope Open enjoyers, rejoice. And even the future after Adam Copeland looks incredibly bright because Daniel Garcia looks like he's next in line. And I'm gonna keep it real, Tony Khan better give him that Pink Panthers introduction when he wins the strap. I mean, that's just a requirement. A guy like me, I would get Bad Bunny to do it, but I don't know if Tony has the pull to get him away from WWE, so I think we gotta hit up Pink Panthers instead. At the end of the day though, the TNT Championship's future is optimistic, it's exciting, and brighter than I think it ever has been. Crazy to think we've gotten back to it considering its past. And even crazier, I think there's only one man we can credit that to. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, leave a like and subscribe to the channel down below. And leave a comment if you think this video is something that I should do more of. It's kind of a new brand of content, so I'm feeling something out. And with that, much love to each and every one of you. It's been Novi. Peace.